Do you think premium gasoline makes your engine run faster, better, and longer? In the United States, at least 13% of sold gasoline is premium fuel. However, this doesn't matter. In this video, pure facts and simple chemistry will solve all our questions, and everything you need to know about gasoline will be explained. Before we specify the differences between regular and premium gasoline, we need to know what gasoline actually is. It is a mixture of mostly different types of hydrocarbons, which are chemicals with hydrogen and carbon atoms. Before anything else, crude oil is extracted from the ground. Then there are two important steps to turn the oil into something useful. First, there's a physical process called distillation. Then comes a chemical processing step, which is known as conversion. During distillation, crude oil is heated until it evaporates. It is then allowed to cool in a controlled way, so it condenses back into liquid. This separates the crude oil into different hydrocarbons, because each type of hydrocarbon has its own boiling point. Shorter hydrocarbon chains have lower boiling points compared to longer ones. The hydrocarbons in gasoline, for example, usually have 4 to 11 carbon atoms. Next is the conversion process, where the molecules are chemically altered. This means the hydrocarbons are transformed into new structures, giving them different chemical properties. And these changes also impact the characteristics of the gasoline. One well-known conversion process is called cracking. In cracking, long hydrocarbon chains are broken down into shorter ones, which are more suitable for use in gasoline. Another process is reforming, where hydrocarbons are refined to improve their quality. Let's deep dive into the different types of hydrocarbons and other chemicals in gasoline. It mainly consists of different types of hydrocarbons, then some additives, and also some unwanted and helpful substances. Each type of hydrocarbons has its own characteristics and influences the attributes of gasoline differently. Alkanes make up a big chunk of chemicals found in gasoline. Some of you may know them as paraffins, as alkanes is the more scientific term for them. Nevertheless, you find the term paraffins is commonly used in the petroleum and fuel industries. They are a type of saturated hydrocarbon, meaning that every possible spot along the chain of carbon atoms is inhabited by a hydrogen atom. This gives them a high energy density. An example for an alkane would be hexane, which consists of 6 carbon atoms with hydrogen atoms all the way around. Now we come to very similar sounding hydrocarbons, alkenes. They look almost the same as alkanes, but some spots along the carbon chain have not been occupied by a hydrogen atom. Therefore, it's possible for carbon atoms around these spots to form so-called double bonds, with their free electrons instead of only a single bond in alkanes. This makes them more reactive and less stable than their more symmetrical cousins. Aromates, on the other hand, are quite stable and have the lowest tendency to knock among the substances discussed so far. No worries, we'll get to what that means in just a moment. The most popular one is benzene, but because it's really unhealthy and can cause diseases like cancer, its amount is limited to a maximum of 1% in all types of gasoline. And then there's sulfur. It can lead to the formation of sulfuric acids during engine operation, and this can corrosively attack metals, in this case the engine. Also, there's ethanol, which is basically alcohol. But we'll come to its specific purpose in gasoline in just a few moments. There are many reasons why additives are mixed into gasoline. Some of them can reduce emissions or wear of the engine. But important is, the emissions produced are the same as the emissions from the rest of the gasoline. Other additives can also prevent deposits in the intake system and especially the intake valves. These deposits can cause engine malfunctions such as irregular running or starting problems. In the world of gasoline productions, there are norms to standardize the composition of different types of gasoline. A popular one is the DIN EN 228. This is a European norm describing which substances are allowed in what amounts in the different types of gasoline. The norm makes sure that all gas stations around Europe serve gasoline with at least the same main characteristics. In the United States, there's the Environmental Protection Agency, which also regulates different ingredients in gasoline. They set limits for sulfur content in gasoline or require a certain percentage of renewable fuels like ethanol blended into gasoline. Also, setting requirements for the emissions is part of their job. Both the DIN-EN 228 and the Environmental Protection Agency differ between regular and premium fuel. For example, the volatility has different limits, meaning how fast the gasoline evaporates. Then the percentage of alkenes differs as well in different types of gasoline. As I explained earlier, alkenes aren't as stable as alkanes, and therefore should occur less in premium fuels. The octane ratings are a measure of a fuel's ability to resist knocking during combustion in an engine. Knocking happens when the air-fuel mixture in an engine ignites prematurely, which can cause engine damage. A higher octane rating means better resistance to knocking. First of all, it's important to understand that not the same kind of rating is applied all over the world. The rating used in the US is another one than the one used in most other countries. I'll give a short overview on both of them. In the USA, two numbers are used, which both are types of octane ratings, but are derived from different measurement techniques. There's the RON, which means research octane number, and then there's the MON, which is the motor octane number. Both measurement techniques have one thing in common. The fuel which is tested is compared to a standard reference mixture made of two specific hydrocarbons. There's isooctane, which is a highly knock-resistant compound. It has the research octane number 100. And then there's anheptane, which is assigned a value of 0, because it is very prone to knocking. These two compounds then got mixed together in different ratios, forming different test mixtures that all have a defined RON. The fuel then gets compared to these test mixtures and gets assigned the RON of the mixture that has the same knocking characteristics to the fuel. RON is determined under low speed conditions and considered a good indicator for how the fuel will perform in everyday driving. The MON, motor octane rating, is measured under more severe high-speed conditions, which are closer to how a vehicle typically operates in real driving. The MON values are typically lower than the RON values for the same fuel. In the US, you usually see the AKI, anti-knock index, displayed on the fuel pumps. It is calculated by summing up the RON values and the MON values of the fuel and dividing them by 2. In Europe and most other countries, only the RON is used. That's why you find higher numbers at the gas stations in Europe than in the US, even if it's the same gasoline. Almost always ethanol is added to gasoline. You may know the abbreviations E5 and E10 in Europe, which tell you that the given type of gasoline contains 5% or 10% ethanol. The amount of ethanol varies between countries and types of gasoline. In America, all types of gasoline from 87 to 91 usually contain 10% of ethanol. But why would there be ethanol at all in gasoline? Advantages of ethanol in gasoline are its cost and the fact that ethanol reduces emissions compared to other chemicals in gasoline. It also improves the octane rating. On the downside, it is not as energy dense as gasoline, which reduces the amount of power that can be extracted. And with that, also the fuel consumption increases. Make sure your engine tolerates the given amount of ethanol. The main difference in different types of gasoline is the octane rating. Two sorts of gasoline with different octane ratings will then have different amounts of paraffins, olefins, and aromatics in them. Often, the different types of gasolines also have different additives in them. But of course, the DIN-EN 228 and also the Environmental Protection Agency define how many paraffins, olefins, and other chemicals have to be in which type of fuel. So the substances and especially their amounts are different, but the effect is the same. Don't gas stations say something different? And now we are moving on to a more sensitive topic. Do gas stations try to trick you, especially with their advertisement for premium fuels? You may have seen some gas stations which promise you incredible benefits when you get their premium fuels. For example, 100% cleaning and protection for the engine, as well as more engine power. They also promise that your engine will live longer and so on. But is this also true for your motorcycle? You just have to read the fine print. Shell, for example, specifies everything they advertise in their disclaimer. When you read that disclaimer, you realize that not everything that's advertised is true for your specific engine. Let's look at these statements in detail. On the British and the American website, it states more power and cleaner engine and better acceleration. The disclaimer then specifies that there's no guarantee for that, which is interesting, but doesn't say any further. On the German website, you find a similar claim, but if we follow the asterisk, it says measured in industry standards and Shell's own tests, followed by Shell V-Power Racing is having these benefits in vehicles made for high-octane fuel. Okay, but honestly, how many vehicles are made for high-octane fuels? In the world of cars, these are quite rare. Regarding motorcycles, I also bet that most of us don't ride bikes falling into this category unless you've got a high-performance sports bike and it is explicitly said in your user manual that your bike is made for high-octane fuel. Save your money. Additives that can be found in these premium fuels can be beneficial for your engine, but they don't necessarily have to be. They won't be harmful for sure, but when the engine isn't full of dirt, the benefits will come down to a minimum. There you have it. Now you know how gasoline is made, how it is categorized, and whether or not you can save money the next time getting gas.